I'm Mike Lyons, your host for another oral history interview for the Jacksonville Broadcasters Association. The association's purpose is to preserve the rich history and contributions of the area's radio, television, and broadcasting industries. The association is open to those past and present broadcasters and those affiliated with the region's broadcasting industries who have served this region's proud broadcasting heritage. We welcome students who are focusing their careers on the broadcasting industry. It is now May 2022. We're taping that here in May, and our guest today is a former photographer at WJKS Channel 17 and much more than that, and the current station manager at WJCT Radio. Our guest is David Luckin. David, great that you're able to be with us.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
You got a lot of interesting stories. I've talked with you. It's incredible. But let's go back to the 6th grade.
Oh, boy.
That's where your love of this broadcasting industry started.
And journalism. I started a one-sheet on a ditto machine, a newspaper in 6th grade. That was my first foray into journalism. And in 6th grade, I also bought my first little reel-to-reel so I could record the music off the radio and play it whenever I wanted to hear it. And the first song I recorded was the Supremes' I Hear a Symphony. And ironically, Mary Wilson of the Supremes came to the station last year or so. She died last year, so it must have been the year before. And I told her, I said, you know, you're the first song I recorded when I got my first tape recorder. And she said, you know, that was always our favorite song. And then she autographed the album, so that was nice, all those 50 years later, to see Mary Wilson in person.
Mm-hmm. You told me about a field trip in the 6th grade, too.
Right. Yeah, so much happened in 6th grade. A field trip to WROC, Channel 8, NBC affiliate, owned by Russ Kraft.
In Rochester,
New York, which ironically owned the first station I worked at in Jacksonville, Channel 17. I think it was all of a month before it got sold to Media General. Right. But I did a field trip, and it definitely made me want to go do something with TV. And then to complement that, I would always hang out at the top AM rock station and just watch the DJs through the window. You know, take the elevator up into the high-rise, the skyscraper where they did their radio station, and watch those guys. And I was always calling up trying to win contests.
That was WROC?
No, that was WBBF. And ironically, that's where Jessica Savage started.
Wow.
We used to go see her on the corner of Main and Clinton. She'd be in a portable unit. This is the first page of her book, actually. It was talking about being on Main Street in Rochester. She was called Jessica the Honeybee because it was WBBF. And her mobile unit had a beehive on top. And Saturdays and Sundays, we'd take the bus all the way to the lake and come back and have to wait there to transfer to the bus home. And there'd be Jessica.
Wow.
And what she talks about in her book is how we used to kind of stand on the bumper and kind of rock it while she was on the radio. And then she'd have to do code words to the station to get someone down to chase us off.
Crazy.
Good fun. So 6th grade, a newspaper, a TV field trip, and hanging out at the radio station.
And you knew what you wanted to do.
I always wanted to be either a reporter or a DJ.
Right. You told me, too, that you dropped out of school in the 9th grade.
Quit school in May of 1968.
In the 9th grade.
I really ran away from home. I didn't quit school. I liked school.
Oh, really?
I didn't like home. So I started out on my own.
And you ended up getting your GED and going to college for journalism. Tell me about that.
SUNY Brockport, just 30 miles west of Rochester. I started as a music major, and then I switched to journalism. There were too many people better than me in the music world. I thought, I'm never going to keep up with these guys.
Because you played instruments,
I took piano when I was a kid, and then I took flute in Rochester when I was 20. And then I started school at like 21 or 25. I guess I started college in 1977 as a music major. So I learned theory, history, composition, all that. But journalism, news has always been what I really love. It's a push-pull. It's music and news. I love both.
Right. And you graduate from SUNY, or you moved on?
I did my last semester at SUNY. My second to last semester I did in London. And I came back and did one more semester in Brockport and was convinced I don't want to be in the winters here anymore. I was thinking of going to University of Hawaii because they had a good journalism program.
Wow.
And I came down to Florida to visit my brother, who had a roommate who ended up being my wife. And I transferred to UF because I liked her. Yeah. And got accepted there. Imagine getting in UF with a GED. Okay.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, because now a 4.5 barely gets you in.
Yeah, right.
So I did my 2 years, my last 2 years at UF, and then it came time for an internship in 1983, and I took a train to Philadelphia, and was accepted to do an internship at WCAU, right there on the Schuylkill River. Wow. And Channel 17 I also interviewed with, and they said you can do the internship here. And I chose Channel 17 because Philly said, you're not going to be able to touch anything. It's a union shop. The most you'll be able to do is rip a wire or hand anchor scripts.
Right.
And Channel 17 said, you can go out and shoot news. You can do, go.
It was incredible. So you did the
So
internship
I accepted the internship at 17.
And they weren't lying to you, too. When you got there, you did
I started
big-time
straight
stuff
out.
right out.
Yep. Don Flynn took me out the first day to a West Side bar. There was a shooting the night before. We double shot it. He left that Friday, and I got his gear, big red TK-76, and a 110. Just a 50 wasn't enough. I had to have the 110.
Right.
So it was a paid internship. I had a Volkswagen van, covering the news in a Volkswagen van. I love crossing the Matthews Bridge, and you're like, I hope this car makes it to this story. And then Channel 17 hired me. But I was minimum wage, shooting the news, minimum wage. The kid at Dairy Queen was making as much as me, and I'm interviewing Jack Kemp. Go figure.
Yeah.
So it turned into a job. My first job.
You mentioned me. You did some real interesting, and I was at 17 at that
Yep.
time. You came in, but some interesting stories you did at 17. You still remember? Some
Oh
of
yeah,
those stories
probably
you covered.
the biggest and best story. So I did three stints at Channel 17. The first time was 2 years, then I moved to Orlando because my wife moved there and I got married. Worked there 2 years, came back. Right. But the most memorable stories, without a doubt, was Laura Perano and I followed some Jacksonville veterans up to New York for the ticker tape parade that was long overdue. No one ever said welcome home. Yeah. That was an unbelievable event to be on Fifth Avenue. I mean, I'd only seen John Glenn and presidents, in that setting, and to be there was totally beyond. And the problem is, I do not have video of that. I didn't, for some reason, it's probably still on that wall on Channel 17.
You save everything.
I know, and I can't, I've got freaking video of Thomas Edison. I don't have video of probably the biggest story I ever did. And probably the second most impactful story for me was Linda Grasso and I, after a 825 cut-in, we heard a call from Gainesville that a student was dead in his apartment. So as soon as we finished the last cut-in, we did 725, 825 cut-ins. I was the early photog. We drove to Gainesville.
Danny Rolling was arrested in Ocala.
And then the one death turned into two, and it spent the next day, and we slept in a hotel that night, and then there were more deaths the next day. So that was I think that was about 28 years ago now.
Yeah, that was a Danny Rolling.
Danny Rolling, yeah,
case
who was camped out in the woods and came out just to
And
kill.
Another one you told me about was...
And the third one was, really a thrill, was landing on a Saratoga in a cod.
Yeah.
You've done it. You're sitting backwards, you grab your belt this way, and you feel that tail hook grab the rubber band underneath. That was really fun. I did that with Pete Christensen.
And you were live from the deck of the...
Okay, the second time I came back, I can't remember if it was the first time or the second time. Then the second time I flew to the Saratoga was on a helicopter because it was their return home.
Right.
And that's the one where I was beaming it live with remember that arm we had?
Yeah.
Beaming it live, and then the ship turned, and it was Kaminsky and you or someone on the shore who all of a sudden picked up the coverage. It was so cool. And then you were shooting us.
Right.
Well, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a huge story.
And when we went out the first time on the cod, I can't remember if it was this first or the second one, but Whitney Houston was aboard for morale building the troops. She didn't sing or anything, but we were this close, and she was in this orange jumpsuit and smiling, and so we slept the night on the ship, and then came into port that morning. That was really amazing.
And talk about the helicopter at 17. 17 was the first station here to have a helicopter.
Yep.
And we used that for a while.
Orange
you were big time
button up there. Well, my friend Mike was the #1 guy. Him and Kurt, they really, Kurt Bibas, they were the stars of bringing back the great video. But I got the job of doing traffic in the morning. So all I had to do was turn on the transmitters, get it all going, and just shoot the traffic, no voiceover, for Joyce. Because then it was Joyce and John and Shannon, the producer, and I wasn't the editor anymore. It used to be just the four of us, and then I started shooting.
Joyce Morgan, John
John Gahn, and Shannon, the producer, and me. We ran that show forever. And then I guess I got back on the street because then every morning, 7:25, I'd be at Craig, suiting up. And usually the pilot let me use his jumpsuit because he was used to the cold. Because some mornings it was cold as all get out up there because there's no door. The first thing we do is take the door off.
But that had to be fun.
Oh, it was fun every morning. Every morning, see the city, and then we'd land at 8:25, and I'd be in the station by 9. We'd do our 10 o'clock editorial meeting, and the day starts. But for me, it started every morning at 7 at Craig Field. For, I don't know, maybe a year.
Right. You mentioned that you went to Orlando. I think you mentioned that. I
went to Channel 6.
to Channel 6? You decided to move up and
Well,
market
Karen
side.
moved, so
okay.
my wife
Right.
got she was at Reynolds Smith and Hills.
Okay, so she moved out and you went to see it pretty
Yeah.
good. And you told me a story that was very interesting.
Oh, this was,
the
you,
other
you mean the
people-
first day at work?
Yeah, the first day at work.
So the first, I get hired on the telephone. I'm back at the last desk before the edit suites doing the interview in there during the day at 17. And 17 was fine with it. And they hired me on the phone. I go to work the first day, and who's there at the assignment desk? My last news director at Channel 17 who got fired, Roger Mann. I thought, oh, Roger, good to see you.
Oh, wow. He knew you.
It totally blew me away because I'd never been to the building before. I didn't know any of the people. And Roger said, you're going out with Ben. And Ben was a senior anchor, been there for 100 years. And Ben Akrig and I went out for a story about recluse spiders. And Ben bent down in the kitchen and he opened the door real quick and I shot in there and I got a recluse spider. So I got back to the station and the video ended up on Dan Rather's CBS Evening News. And all my coworkers were like, your first day here, you sold video to the network? I said,
You used to pay back
just
then,
luck.
didn't they?
Yeah, so it was like $50.
Yeah.
And Dan Rather introed it, and there's a little recluse spider that I shot. I was like, okay, this is fun. Wow. So I did 2 years there, and then I came back.
Yeah, then you came back to 17.
And then ended up somehow chief photographer, and Lord knows there were more qualified people. I did that for a year or two, and then the promotion job came open, and I went to Matthews because I had a child then, and I was tired of being called at 2 o'clock in the morning for the wreck on I-10.
Oh,
I'm laying in bed thinking, how do you get to I-10?
That's a tough part
I
of
live
the
at the
business,
beach.
which happens.
No,
Yeah.
exactly. And I was out there that last night with Jim Schottler from the newspaper, and Impala was just, the back seat was in the dashboard. It was a horrible accident. And I started thinking, you know, I'm tired of getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to figure out where I'm going with a baby at home. Yeah. So I applied for the promotion manager's job.
And
Shouldn't have gotten that either, but I got it.
But you're, I'm not surprised.
I was
'cause
creative.
You're
yeah.
creative. You like to
Go,
promote.
go. And Matthews, the general manager, said, you know, the pay was like $40,000 or something, and he said, we'll give you 30 for the first 6 months, and if you're any good at it, we'll give you the other 10.
Right. You mentioned New York stint in New York City at ABC. Where did that happen?
That was 1988. After encephalitis, which was a lot of fun, knocked me out of work completely for a year.
Right.
Then I got a vacation relief editor's job in New York at WABC. So that was my second time at 17. I left that time, went to New York. So when I came back, so New York was great. 9 months in New York, editing, cueing the tapes for Regis and Kathy every morning. And
you loved New York.
it was a thrill. The first time I ran away from home, I went there. So to go back there, you know, 50 years later and actually be paid and live there was a real thrill.
And you got to know Regis Philbin pretty
Oh
good.
yeah, and a great guy. Yeah, he was the first person that said hi to me when I was waiting in the lobby to be interviewed.
And the second was?
Was Kathy Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was an early morning interview, and Kathy Lee, of course, came in the limo, pulled up, and all of her clothes out over her shoulder, and she comes running in. I said, good morning. And I said, hey, good morning. I thought,
Man,
wow.
to meet those. And you would tell me, did you see other famous people walk by?
I met Jermaine Jackson there, but walking down the street in my neighborhood, I lived in Hell's Kitchen, there's Kurt Vonnegut walking with me. And I'm thinking, wow, Kurt Vonnegut, cool. I didn't say anything. And then another day I was walking down West, what is that street? It's Park Avenue. We're at Central
ask
Park
me.
and Fifth Avenue N. And there's Ed Asner just walking to work, to the theater or somewhere. It was just fun. You know, I never bugged anyone. My best one was James Taylor. I'm walking down 57th Street, and there's James Taylor, Cole, his scarf around his neck. I'm thinking, hey, cool, James Taylor. I won't say anything. And then I meet a friend at ABC at Giovanni's, this Italian restaurant across the street from Lincoln Center. And we're sitting there eating, and guess who walks in? James Taylor and his son, Ben. And my friend said, okay, you're supposed to see famous people in New York, but not the same ones hours apart.
And
So
you would take a
New York
weekly
was fun.
trip down the sidewalk with Regis to the bank.
Yeah, we walked to the ATM together. Yeah, he was just like you saw him. He's just a regular guy, just a nice guy.
So you were.
So then I came back.
You came back to 17.
Right, and then I guess that's when I got the promotion manager's job, because the first stint and the second stint was as a photographer. And then what happened was they went and stole our affiliation. Mr. Albritton.
Right.
Albritton family was the second largest group-owned ABC owner in America. The only bigger group that owned ABC stations was ABC. Right. And their flagship was WJLA Washington, John Lewis Albritton.
Right.
I always
that
name
put
stations after myself.
News at
17.
They became then that
ABC 25 came in because Robert Albritton, the son, his dad just said, we'll build you a station. Yeah, it's
And
like a
then
candy store.
17 became WB affiliate.
Right, and that was my job, I carried the transition.
Right. You were promoting a brand new station.
Yep.
That had to be fun.
Yep.
You mentioned a couple of things, wrapping a bus and a
Yeah,
spot where
exactly.
he exploded a TV.
Yeah,
Tell me about that.
so first they flew me to LA for like almost a week to indoctrinate me on the WB and how to talk frog. And that was great, and it gave me so much free stuff, and I came back and gave away half of it and kept half of it. I still have the jackets. And then I came back, and Warner Brothers had this cool little template for us of a TV on a pedestal, and it explodes. And what they were offering at the stations who were changing their affiliation and becoming a WB. So what I did, because I'm a history nut, I edited all of our history from the early black and white shot that we always have in the control room. Started with that, and then did this rapid montage to the end of A Day in the Life with the Beatles. So the crescendo's building, and it blows up, and the WB-17 comes out. I don't have that either, but I would like it if anyone has it, because I was so proud of that. It was such a fun thing. And then we wrapped we were the first TV station to wrap a bus.
Right, city bus with WB
with the frog
all over it.
Yeah.
Wow. And
that was good fun.
Yeah. And you promoted WB, and then you ended up with the All Britain people. How did that end
because it was time to leave Channel 17. I loved it, but I didn't like my manager. I didn't like my boss. So ABC 25 was signing on, and I was the second hire there. They hired the graphic artist first, and then they hired me to build a library. So I went around, shot Jaguars and Suns and St. Augustine and Ocean and Sunrises and everything, because we had no library. We had nothing. And if you ever remember the ABC 25 set, it had all these fake monitors all around the set with all pictures, but they weren't real monitors, but on TV they looked real. Yeah. They were all my shots. It was so cool. Somehow they put them on film and then put them in these screens, so when you looked at our set, it looked like, wow, they got 100 monitors, everything's going on. But they were all shots I took that we put in.
You went to city, maybe went to the zoo.
Exactly, because we had nothing.
Nothing, right.
No archive. So if you needed a beauty shot or today's news in St. Augustine, what do you use? So my first 3 months before they even signed on was literally just collecting
So you were in
B-roll.
on the start of WB, you were in on the start of the
ABC
news
25.
at 25.
Yeah.
That had to be, like you said, interesting.
It was so much fun. I learned how to edit on an Avid. I had 16 tracks of audio and video. I never edited that way before. I was machine to machine like you were.
And they started the news shows, and
we built that beautiful building on JTB. It was totally digital, the best. Everything in there was the best. It had our own helicopter. Yeah. I mean, you name it. And then Robert lost interest and sold
All Britain, the guy that owned it.
He was 30-something, and he was
everybody working there, and decided to sell it, and he sold it to
the rats across the street at Channel 12.
Right.
And the reason I say the rats is not because of Channel 12, but the rats, All Britain was, because what that did was it guaranteed 90% of us would lose our jobs, because there was no way. They always say that. You collapse one newspaper, well, we'll still keep all the people. Yeah, no, you didn't. And
because 12 just absorbed 25
exactly.
and had broadcast both and used the same people to broadcast on both of them.
But they didn't need us.
They didn't need you.
No. So I was out of a job, and I went over to 12. I did the interview.
Was that devastating to you at that point? I mean,
the interview was horrible because the gentleman wasn't very nice or professional in the interview. I didn't think. At 12. I was the first person from 25 to go to 12, because they said, hey, send them over. We'll interview everyone. We'll hire all you people. And the guy was rude. And it was like, yeah, no. So I went back and I told the manager, and I guess I made an impression with him, because he called up and the person who interviewed me and said, hey, don't talk to our people that way again. He was just rude. It was just not a nice meeting. It was certainly no invitation to want to work there.
But you didn't end up going to 12, but you ended up at WJCT.
Yep, 22 years ago.
Where you are now.
Yep.
And
hired to produce then we had the auction. In this town, there was like 25 years, Channel 7 did an auction. We sell everything from furniture to Lance crackers, in the original container. Right. It was our fundraiser. So I was hired to produce that and to produce pledge breaks. That's when we give the phone number and ask you for your money on radio and TV. And then about 4 or 5 months in, I asked them if I could do a radio show. And they said no. And then all
that you love music, and I had gone to your house when you worked at 17, and you had all kinds of stuff. Incredible.
Yeah, movies and music. I got a huge collection. So I developed a show called Night Flight. It was an hour Saturday nights at 10 o'clock. and till 11. And then we had Marion McPartland. I'm sure people know who she is, an incredible piano player. And we were giving up that show. So my boss came to me literally in a week and said, you got the 10 o'clock slot. I said, when do I start? And he said, this Saturday. I said, okay. So I put together a show. That was mostly a real space music, late night chill out show, you know, music for dreams. And after a year or two of that, a Springfield association came to me, because that's when Springfield was blowing up. Henrietta's was there and everyone was building, and Springfield was coming back, and they said, we'll give you $20,000 if you bring this show Monday through Friday. So I took it to the boss and said, man, I got $20,000 underwriter if we can do this. So it ended up being Saturday to Monday. No, we were off Sundays and Mondays, so whatever. It was a 6-day week, and we launched Electro Lounge as a 2-hour program every night. But we branched it out. I couldn't play space music for 2 hours every night.
Right.
Welcome to the Electro Lounge. I'm your host, David Luckin, here with you Monday through Saturday nights, bringing you music from around the world. So then I'm starting to play lots of, you know, reggae and all kinds of things, throwing Johnny Cash in.
And that was no problem for you, because you knew it all.
Because I like it all. To me, it's music without walls. I mean, there's music you like and music you don't like, but I don't think it's bad or good. It's just, do you connect? And that lasted for 15 years until COVID, and then I got bumped up an hour because we were doing an NPR COVID update every night. And then we got a new boss who said, we're going to be all news information. We're not going to have music on this channel anymore. We're going to not have a dual personality. All the music is going to HD and online. So my last 4 years have been moving all the music to HD. So we have a classical channel, for lack of a better term, an oldies channel called Anthology. And now we have what we call the Independent, which splits the day with Electro Lounge. So my program is still on. It's going to be like 9 at night till 6 in the morning, and then the Independent takes over.
And you put all those HD channels together. You
and listen to Easter weekend. I listened to 1,292 songs. Literally, from Thursday. Well, I didn't listen to quite that many because some of them I knew I could skip.
Right.
But basically, I listened because we're that serious about the music. And because we're playing some hip hop and things, we got to make sure the language is good. So I had to sit there, and my mind and brain was pretty much just cream of wheat after that.
Right. You have said to me that you just love it. Here you're in 6th grade, you're watching through the window these DJs, and that was kind of something you wanted to do. But you got the TV for a long time and everywhere, and then you ended up in radio doing another. So you kind of did both things that you love to do.
And I still am, because I'm in the booth every morning for First Coast Connect. I'm in the postmortem afterwards. I'm in the editorial meetings. What do we got? What's our lead tomorrow? So it's all just still 100 miles an hour.
And you were just, we didn't talk about this before, you just mentioned it today, but First Coast Connect is a show Melissa Ross hosted. It's a very popular show in Jacksonville, Florida, very great broadcast. That was your idea, and
It was the station idea to bring a call show to the air.
Right.
Someone else at work and me both wrote proposals. I wrote a proposal which basically, I'll be real honest with you, I basically copied a lot of what Imus in the Morning was doing. So I came up with the God Squad. We had a rabbi and a priest and a cleric, a Muslim cleric, once a week to talk religion. So I just took a lot of ideas that I'd gathered through life and said, can we do this? And we did it. And I had Melissa in my head. I'd seen her on Channel 12. She'd already left. We were trying to figure out who could be a good anchor, and I thought, I remember this lady I saw on 12. So I found her on Facebook and texted her and said, hey, meet me in Springfield at this little restaurant and let's talk. Totally out of the blue, and she ended up being our anchor.
And that show has been on?
13 years.
13 years.
And at the beginning, it was an intern and Melissa and me. That's all it was. 3 people doing that show.
Talk about how that show's progressed. That is a very important show.
You mean progressed?
Huh?
You said regressed.
It's really progressed. It's really
It's a newsmaker show. When it's nice when city people like the mayor the mayor doesn't call up, unfortunately, he won't come on. But when newsmakers do call us because they're listening, we're really happy. Because it is a show that can set the tone and set the subject for the day. Some days we're not. Some days we're following, obviously, whatever the big news was. We may follow first thing in the morning. But it's fresh every day, and Melissa does an incredible job. We've got great producers on the show and a good director, so
You got to be proud in what you did and the part of that.
It's
got her in there to do that.
Oh, yeah.
And what's your involvement every day with the show?
I'm in the booth every morning. And I'm a runner. I'm what we paid interns or had interns to do. When the scripts came out of the copy machine today, I took them and distributed them. I don't have to do that, but that's just It's what I like to do.
You're the actual station manager of the
Right.
radio part. Then you have to. What's your job entail? You have to put out
Do the
a lot of
budget,
fires
and
do things.
if programs get canceled, what are we going to put in there? Stay on top of the emails every day. You know, the gavel to gavel coverage, Supreme Court nominee. Okay, what are we doing? How are we covering that? So the usual, keep up with your daily broadcast and be planning ahead. You know, like if we know there's going to be a State of the Union, okay, what are we doing with our people? It's going to be an hour with our governor. You know, what you have to do that. You just,
Right.
I kind of just know it.
And to do all this work and to do all this and do all these great things, and you dropped out of school or left school. You just left
Right.
home in 9th grade.
Right.
To imagine you do that, that's a lot of hard work. I mean, because you put yourself through school and all that, right?
Yeah, oh yeah,
When you-
oh yeah. I never got it. Well, let me be honest with that too. Because I was a dropout and because I didn't have any money, I was affirmative action. I mean, I got EOP grants and Pell grants and everything. No, because it was legitimate. And if you went to a grant giver or whatever you call them,
Right.
and said, well, I dropped out of school, so they considered you educationally underprivileged. Obviously, you don't have any money because you can't get a good job because you don't have an education. So, and then New York State helped you all the way. Those weren't loans; those were grants. But I worked at the same time.
Right.
University of Florida, I sold my blood, you know,
Yeah.
in between
But,
grants.
but you love doing what you're doing. You got lots of energy. You know,
Yeah.
you're 69. I mean, you
Yeah.
don't look it. I mean, you're just going at it every day, and you don't mind a bit of it.
No. Because like I tell my kids, I've loved every job I've ever had in this business. I haven't loved every boss, but I've loved every job. Because it's always been what I wanted to do. No one has ever made me do something I didn't want to do. Get in a helicopter every day? Yeah, that's fun. Now, if you didn't want to do it, it'd be torture, but...
Right.
I'm at the station usually between 7:45 and 7:15 every morning, you know, and I'm like Tim Russert. What do you got? What do you know? That's the first things out of my mouth most days.
Yeah.
That's what he used to do in Washington. He'd walk in the bureau and say, what do you got? What do you know?
Yeah. You talk changes in the industry, and we've seen them. What would you say are the changes in the industry? Well, let's say for radio, you've been at radio for
Can
22.
I swear? That blank Spotify? No, well, Spotify and Sirius and those people have changed the whole environment, just as cable changed TV. To me, the biggest change in the whole industry is 2 words: on demand. The notion that when you and I were coming up, you missed NYPD Blue, sorry, you missed it.
Yeah.
It's on demand now. I can record the whole season of any show I want and watch it, binge it. That to me is the biggest change.
Right.
And what that's caused is time shifting, where we're all like, I don't watch Top Chef on Thursdays, I watch it Saturday night. You know, it's like, it has given us so much more flexibility as users. As providers, it's given us a whole hell of a lot of competition.
Right.
I mean, we've got 4 radio stations.
Right, digital radios you got,
Right.
but you just put them out, and the on demand. Like if I want to listen to oldies on
Well-
JCT radio, I just go to my phone and boom,
It's right
play.
there, 24/7, anthology. Yep, and here's the anthology pitch, is I've got 2,500 songs in rotation. The Eagle has like 250. So if you're sick of hearing Stairway to Heaven, listen to the anthology, because we don't talk. We don't interrupt the programming. At 20 and 40, I have an
some
ID.
Of that. I never heard anybody talk.
No.
It's just music.
All you hear is a roll-in sponsor. Terrell Hogan sponsors like Electro Lounge and The Independent. So when you go online, you'll hear this program is brought to you, but then it's uninterrupted. On The Independent, we're offering music calendars and reviews and interviews and everything. We're playing that like a full-blown station. And we've always got our eye open to buy a station. We'd like to put all of our music on its own stick, ultimately.
Yeah.
So,
and you've got to be proud of that you
Oh,
put
yeah.
those 4 together.
oh yeah.
2,500 stations. One thing we were talking about, Sirius radio.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of people have it,
Yep.
playing on demand, but put whatever station you want. But it's amazing at the repetitiveness in
Yes.
that to me.
Yep.
Like, I mean, like Sunday morning, if you're driving down the street, or Saturday afternoon, you might hear similar songs.
That
on
you heard
Sunday
last
morning.
Sunday.
Yeah, right. And like you've got 2,500 songs. It probably takes
Just all in rotation. So if
It'd
you haven't
take-
heard Spanky and Our Gang, I'd like to get to know you in 20 years, there it is. So I mean, there's songs like that where you think, oh, I haven't heard that song in forever, because it doesn't make the 250, but it certainly makes the 2,500.
Right.
Because, you know, and I'm not picking any particular song, just the vastness. So they're playing all the top 40, we're playing the top 100.
Right.
So if a song was, you know, not that not top 10. We play it anyway if it's good music. But yeah, I'm real proud of the music, though. That's been it's my biggest contribution to this community. If I want to say what I've always tried to give this community is.
What about TV
music.
changes? What have you seen at TV?
Well, I
know
think
you
the
started in
on-demand, there is huge. On-demand, I think, affects TV more than radio. Radio, you have all the variety. You can do Sirius, Spotify, TuneIn, Last FM, you name it, you can find it. But TV, we've got 5 TV stations. So again, the multicasting creates more competition. And now, I mean, in the old days, PBS, NBC, CBS, ABC, and Fox, you had 4 networks.
Yeah. That's it.
And now they built whole channels on what PBS built its whole legacy on. Now there's a history channel, a World War II channel, an antiques channel. So everyone has taken pieces of PBS and made their own channel out of it. But we're surviving. We're doing good.
Mm-hmm. TV, radio. You obviously prefer radio. If you had to it's hard. It
is, because the thing I don't know. That's a tough one. To me, it's the same. Oh, okay, and here's the illustration of that, is we're building now a multicast studio. We're going to put Melissa in probably July 1st. And she will be able to go on the radio, on the TV, and on the internet all simultaneously. So that's kind of the future. So when you say that, it's so integrated now. Yeah, obviously radio is standalone, and I love going on the radio and saying, hey, you're listening to this. And I do like that. I don't get to do that on TV, but I just like the whole business, It doesn't matter. I have as much fun wondering why we couldn't get a guest as trying to get the latest music. To me, it's like 50-50.
Your thoughts on local news? You were part of local TV news back in the day, and now it's...
let's address the workers first. I know all the workers are way overworked, because when I did it, we had a noon and a 6. Now you've got your morning show starts at 4, it goes to 10. I'm glad I'm out of it.
Because you were involved in some morning shows, and
I was
you were done.
sole editor, and then you do the nooner, and you go out the door. So I feel sorry for everyone who's working 4 times harder than I ever did. But on the other hand, they've got it easier in some ways. I used to have that satellite truck or the live truck, and now I see guys out there with a backpack.
Yeah.
So it's give and take. But when I've run into friends who were shooters when I was, they say, yeah, you're lucky you got out, because they're working our butts off now. Just show after show after show. Sure. My criticism would be, and I won't name any channels, but some stations really, I think, are more interested in story count. We got 40 stories in here, and I prefer a different station in town that actually does the 1 minute 30 or minute 40 or 2 minute package.
Right.
And
like we did it in the old days.
No, we did.
Like that. Yeah.
And here's the old joke for anyone who's not in broadcasting, is the reporter runs into the newsroom and says, I got the biggest story of a lifetime. Moses just came down the hill with 10 commandments. And the producer looks at him and says, pick the best 5, you got a minute 30. Because that's kind of that's where we were, no matter how good your story was. Well, sports needs 3 minutes, and it's like, but the president just died. Well,
I go to the producer, my story runs 1:43.
I know.
You need to cut
I know.
13 out of there.
No, see, so that's probably my problem, because I watch local news every night, and I watch some stations, and I don't even know what the hell they're talking about, because, they kind of give you half of it, and they're on to the next story, and it's like, okay, and?
Right.
So I do prefer one station over the others,
right.
And I'll let people guess.
What would you say to young people wanting to get into the business, and the TV business or the radio business?
Absolutely.
What would you say to them?
First, you say there's no money in it. And that's not a joke, but I mean, if you want to be rich, be a realtor or something, because there's no money in broadcasting. Right. I think we would agree, right?
Right.
I mean,
unless you
let me put it this way.
Unless you anchor the network evening news,
exactly,
or you're the anchor.
Exactly. I always tell people, thank God my wife was an engineer, so I could play at TV. Okay, and the money wasn't as important. But the most important thing I tell students is, if you're a broadcast major, there's no such thing. Have a really strong second major or a minor in politics, in art, in film or something, so that when you get out there and you're a reporter, you're the business reporter, because your minor was business. Don't just think journalism is anything more than teaching how to use a computer and how to use grammar, right?
Right.
So I encourage students, have a really good, whatever you love. If you love theater and you want to be a journalist, you want to be the New York Times theater critic, right?
Yeah.
So have a good minor. Don't rely on journalism as anything more than to get you in the door. Have some knowledge. Take poli-sci as your second, so that you can be the political reporter. Otherwise, you will be destined to be a general assignment reporter, and you'll chase a bunch of dead bodies, and you'll never, like we did.
Yeah.
No, you know what I'm saying. I think that's good advice for students: have a good second set of knowledge that's going to be what you report on.
Right. You've been in Jacksonville a long time. You started in broadcasting in the early 80s in Jacksonville. Yeah. Now we're in 2022. Your perceptions of Jacksonville, of our town, where you worked, how it's come along, and your thoughts of Jacksonville, Florida.
Sure, it's come a long, long, long ways, and I mean that with all sincerity. And it wasn't like we were in the, the sticks before, but it's come a long ways. I think for me, the growth, the physical growth of driving down streets that used to have trees, or like I like to, we just know those areas where there used to be a house and now it's hula hands. Yeah. Like in the middle of Atlantic, you remember across from Regency where hula hands was? Yeah. When I first moved here, my brother owned one of these 3 little bungalows, these little 3 shotgun shacks that were there. So I've just watched so much land get eaten up by buildings and the beaches and traffic.
And they're moving over here like crazy now.
And the cost of everything at the beaches used to be $10,000 more. Anything at the beach is $10,000 more. Now it's like, 50 more. So most of us at the beach couldn't afford to buy our own homes.
Right. You live at the beach. You love the beach here.
Yeah. I bike and garden, and that's my zen when I'm not thinking news or music.
Right. And for you to work in Jacksonville, most of your career, a New York State native.
Yeah, I know.
And coming here, but you wouldn't trade it, I'm sure.
No, about the first 10 years, I wanted to raise my hand and say, "Can I go home now?" Because it was just the culture's different, just the way I talk is different, just the way we act. Remember John Nicholson?
Yeah.
Our anchor. He stopped me in a hall once. He was coming one way down Channel 17's hall, and I was going probably to the feed room. And he said, "You don't have to walk fast anymore. You're down south."
You did.
No, I'm always
incredible.
go. And he said, "Slow down. You're down here now." So there was a period of adjustment. It's just.
And you actually worked in New York, where they were.
I loved it. My wife did not want to move there.
Right.
Otherwise, I would have tried to stay.
You probably might be in New York today. It's possible.
Yeah. No, I did good there. I mean, they gave me the morning show. So when they started the morning show, I got it, not the locals, and that they were all very unfriendly after that.
And you were telling me they paid well there. You were telling me.
If you put a freeze on the end of a sports edit, you got an upgrade. So I volunteered to do sports editing every weekend because suddenly your wages just went up. They had a huge chart on the wall, and if you missed your lunch, okay, that's a penalty. Every hour you don't get lunch, you get time and a half.
And you weren't into sports that much. You learned a lot, though, by editing.
Yeah. No, I didn't know anything about sports. I learned more about football on a Dolores Weaver shoot where she told ladies how football worked. And I had to shoot that. You remember what I'm talking about? When she first came, she did some workshop.
Right, she did.
And I got that assignment. I thought, well, I learned a lot. No, I never knew sports. It's like the funny story about working with you was on the weekends I had to feed the tapes. And for everyone who remembers this, in the back room, Mike would edit an A tape and a B tape, and there'd be 10 sports highlights here, 10 here, and we go between them. And every time I would put that A tape in this U-matic top load, I'd slam the top down, and the tape would instantly start racing forward. And I had a little 8-inch black and white monitor, and I'm trying to re-cue this while Mike is reading the lead, and I don't know one team from another. I can't find colors. There's no blue Yankees colors.
David, I need the video.
I need the video. Oh, I know. That was so funny. And that U-matic, every time you do that, you'd hear it whipping forward. It's like, no. I don't know what the hell I'm doing here anyway. And now you just ruined it. No, those were fun days. Those were fun days.
Talk about fun. It is fun. Because why would you say it's so much fun?
Because we're free. We're not tied to a desk. We get to use our mouths and our brains every day. We're chatting. If it's a presidential debate, what are we all talking about the next day? And no boss is saying, don't talk about that, So the things, to me, being a kid from the 60s, it was total freedom. I mean, you get out, you're in a news car all day, you're chasing stories. I'm meeting presidents, shaking hands with presidents and landing on aircraft carriers. How do you not love it? Yeah. How is it not fun? And I'm still friends with Linda. I still talk to her.
Linda Grasso. She was at 17.
And she went to New York. She went to Fox LA, covered the OJ trial. But we're still friends. And I call her up and it's like not a day has passed. She's just like yesterday. Except she swears a little more than me, I think.
Some of the top interesting people you've met in your career.
Oh, God.
You probably
shook
could
hands
list
with presidents
50 of them, but five. Just name 4 or 5. Or could you do that?
So they sent me to cover Clinton, Channel 17. I asked the assignment editor the day before, I think I need to come in early. And he said, oh, no, come in regular time. So I come in, I raced to this school on the west side somewhere, but where I parked and where the school was freaking miles away because everyone had parked there. I don't remember what school it was. And I get to the scaffolding, and Clinton is there. I don't have a tape. No tape. Okay.
Oh.
That's cute. Thank God. The guy on the scaffold next to me is called Major King, and I worked with him at Channel 6 in Orlando. And Major said, here, he gave me a 20-minute. Remember, those big ones were only 20-minute, 3/4 inch tape. I never shot so judiciously in my life. So we get to the end, and Clinton starts shaking hands with everyone. So I got my camera here, and I'm in line to shake hands. And the Secret Service says, no, you can't shake hands. Get out of here. And all the people around me were saying, let him shake hands. So of course, I wasn't going to back off. I'm an American. What do you mean I can't shake hands? Because I got a camera? I'm not allowed to shake hands? So I shook hands with Clinton as he walked by. That was fun.
Yeah.
But oh God, Jack Kemp, Al Gore. I mean, we got to cover everybody. Right. I can't. I'm at a loss.
And you were interested in politics.
No. I mean, I love doing it all. I mean, when we had a football game, the blimp came. I got to ride in the blimp. How much fun was that? We took off from Craig Field and sail around a blimp for a day. I mean, that's why I say it was all fun. And most of the people I worked with, we all loved our jobs.
Right.
You know, we loved what we were doing. So it made it much more fun than going to the factory and tightening 2 bolts as it goes by.
Even though, like says, less money, it's very interesting things that you're doing.
You don't do it for the money. If you're in it for the money, then good luck. Rob Banks on the side after hours or something, because there's no money in broadcasting.
You see retirement, you're loving it. You see retirement anytime soon for you? Or?
I think in the back of my mind, maybe do 3 more years to hit 25
at
Channel 7 at 89.9. I just have too much energy. I don't know what I would do. You know, I'm not on coffee, so.
Yeah. Me neither.
Exactly. Well, we're both high-strung and we go.
Maybe, or whatever.
Yeah,
ride your bike with the wife. She does that.
How long does that take out of an 8-hour, 24-hour day? No, see, I just don't see it yet. I don't.
Yeah.
I did a year ago when I had some health issues. I thought, maybe I'll slow down. And it was like, now I'm back. It's like, what am I going to do? Sit at home and criticize the TV? You know us, we're directing. It's like camera two. When I'm watching people, it's like, cue them. And my family is used to it now. But if a stranger ever walked in and heard us watching TV, because I still love TV to the point of I'm looking at stand-ups. I'm saying, wow, great stand-up. I don't know how you get that out of your head once you do it.
Right.
Seriously, like I'm watching the Ukraine coverage. I'm watching Clarissa Ward, and I'm thinking, this woman is got to be the bravest woman. Have you seen her?
No, I don't think so.
She was on CBS for years. Now she's on CNN. But just her bravery and her competence under those conditions, I'm in awe of. Yeah. But I love watching TV news and just saying, wow, cool, stand-up. You know, because I don't know how you forget that stuff once it's in your head. Or saying, come on, you're up. You know what I mean. It's an occupational hazard. You know. Okay, here's another good one. The occupational nightmare. Had it for years. You're flying in a helicopter. It must be a huge story because they put the helicopter up, and I reach, and there's no camera.
Yeah. We had a guy drive to Orlando at Channel 12 one day and forgot the camera, went all the way to Orlando and didn't bring his camera.
No. And the battery dropped off my camera. I had that happen. Not Mike Rue's version where his went through the roof of the house.
Oh, yeah.
Mine dropped off. It was Spring Music Festival. The Beach Boys were going to play in Beth Campbell, and all of our friends were all still with us then. And they sent me up that morning to do the crowd shots and stuff. And I'm over North Main Street. Luckily, there's a median way up there. And I turned, and the side of the chopper window there, or door, grabbed that battery, and the battery went out and went down on the median. And I can't remember if it was after that Mike did the same thing, except with Mike's Channel 4, his battery went through the roof of the porch and through the floor, and Channel 4 was there zooming into the Channel 17 logo on the battery. No, those were our fun stories, and I still love all the people. I mean, we work with some really good. Kristen Dodd, she's still good friends. And Linda, and look at where all of our people went. Marion Brooks is still in Chicago, the main anchor. Right. Linda went all over. Tori went to Boston. Sam went to ABC. I met him up there because I'd worked with him here. It was fun. We went out one night because I'd done live shots with him at the Crawdaddies when he worked for us. And he had a sweater, and we had a cold front once. Remember Crawdaddies? And we did a live shot there at 6 with Sam. And then I went up there, and he was there. So one night we went to some cowboy bar. So lots of great memories, lots of good people. and just a good industry.
You've told so many stories today, and,
Yeah,
and
I'm sorry.
you'd have many more that we could talk another hour. But
Sure.
it's great that you're still broadcasting here and you're working with JCT, and
Yeah.
keep it up as long as you want to. And thank you for joining us
My
today.
pleasure. This was good fun. Thanks for asking me.
Great stories, my
Sure.
man. Thank you.
My pleasure.